All right. We are back. Another episode, Coach Development Live, and we've got a very, very special guest joining us from CrossFit HQ, the host of the new CrossFit podcast. If you guys have not listened, you need to check it out. The first two episodes with Nicole Carroll and Chuck Carswell are epic. DT. We have the Denise Thomas, go Birds, in the house.
Go,
Oh, go Birds. Go Birds.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah. Is that, I was wondering, you were reaching back to grab a bottle of wine. I thought we were going to celebrate. I thought that's what you were grabbing.
We can because Ash bought me this mid-regular season and was like, look, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, we can drink this. And I saved it and it has not been opened yet, but I will be wearing my hat and drinking my Super Bowl wine.
Yeah.
Todd, I think we should have taken a bet on how quickly the Eagles paraphernalia would make us show
I
video.
I didn't need to say go Birds, did I?
I got a new piece about a month ago too. It's one of those pop figures. It's Jalen Hurts. We should move on because I will definitely hijack.
Yeah, we'll just go straight into that.
Chit chat,
Yeah, this Coach Development Live isn't necessarily about coaching up the Eagles to the Super Bowl victory. In fact, it's actually about developing as coaches, and no better person to discuss coach development than the Denise Thomas. And in fact, what we're going to discuss today is whiteboard briefs. And this is one of those things I think that can get overlooked. Would you guys agree with that? It's one that seems simple, but it really sets the tone for the entire class. So right off the bat, Denise, whiteboard briefs, what pops to mind? Like anything jump to your brain hearing that?
Yes. It's like what you said. It's done poorly. It creates all kinds of confusion and problems that you have to go correct in the class. You can get ahead of, but it can be overdone. And it can be too much. And it's like this kind of same thing when you're teaching, giving too much information when really all they need to know are what are the big things right now so we can do the next thing well. So the whiteboard for me it's historical. It's part of our DNA. It's very unique to, I think, CrossFit. Not that you don't give some kind of intro in other things. Other sporting programs, but it's the closest thing for me to like a team where you have your tribe, you come together, you discuss the X's and O's, like at the whiteboard, like if you were going to play a soccer game or a football game, and we get on the same page, we go out and we do this thing together and we suffer, and then we come back to the whiteboard to celebrate and talk about what happened and things like that. So the whiteboard brief is important, but then also coming back to the whiteboard at the end. So for me, it's just very traditional CrossFit. From the very first day I did it, it was like that old kind of thing you could get from, I know even Rogue, it was like this big plastic laminated thing. And it said warm up, skill, workout, cool down. And you would write everything on the board. And I just love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Ours still has the same thing, the warm-up, skill, and WOD. Yeah. And I'm with you. It's like that was our origins with this stuff. It's interesting now because I see a lot of gyms that have TV screens instead of whiteboards, which
literally no whiteboard.
No whiteboards. It's perfectly adequate. I think you can absolutely do it like that. But there is something of like, I struggle in that environment because I'm just so used to the whiteboard itself. And I think you make a good point that it's essentially the bookend of our class, right? We start the class typically at the whiteboard. I think we can discuss that there's some other strategies of when the true whiteboard brief goes down. But then ideally we finish back at the whiteboard. And even if you don't have whiteboards, you're using TV screens, you start at the screen discussing the workout, and then you finish ideally back at the screen entering scores so we can track what's going on. Now we've got a couple. Oh man, Omar used to be in a gym that had a projector.
That's cool.
Was
That
it
feels
was it one of those projectors where you had to have your
I've seen
computer
that.
hooked up, or was it one like I had in elementary school where the teacher would write on it and then just
like the transparencies.
the transparency thing,
Yeah.
and then would just roll to the next thing.
Like
Omar
yeah.
is still a teacher, so maybe he still used that. I wonder if that's still in play in schools this day. But I think there's a couple good questions here. I'm gonna ask the question: how much is too much, and how much is too little? What's your guys' thoughts on that? Kabo?
Yeah, I think too much is, we can talk about the literal time amount you spend. You know, if you're up there for 5, 6, 7 minutes, it's too much. For every minute you're up there, it's a minute away from movement that your people are going to be doing and coaching and priming for the workout. What's up?
What would you say is the max? What is the max time duration? I'd want to hear that from both of you guys.
I say 5.
DT,
What
what
do
do
you
you
say,
got?
Denise?
Yeah, I'm about 5 too, but I'm like, it's kind of like this. The numbers matter, but it also depends on what is in it, right? So it's
Exactly.
like some
Yeah.
days a whiteboard gathering, I'll call it like, I have 5 S's to the whiteboard, and there's like things that you got to hit. And the first one is like, you're starting something special. And some days it needs to go a little longer because there's something special we need to talk about. But if that time is used poorly and you're just talking about not like, so what do you do this weekend? And you go through every scaling option and you demonstrate everything, and then you could
You're
argue.
talking
So
strategy and every scale, and
yeah,
it just
all the things.
information overload to where your people aren't even going to be able to retain all the things you're saying, and you're going to have to end up repeating it anyway. That's I think where we
And
draw
you
the line
will.
at a little too much.
So I'm never of that mindset of, if your whiteboard's 7 minutes long, it's too long, and just like, okay, easy tiger, like, let's talk about this. Like, some people have really chatty affiliates. Now, if depends on the workout, right? It's like, if you have a 20-minute workout and time is valuable, then you got to be a little bit more. So it really depends to me on the workout, the thing. But if you want a number, I would say 5 minutes is like a good top end range.
Yeah. All else being equal, right? Yeah. If there's a question of the day that has more dialogue and things like that, it might push on past that. But I think if it's day in and day out and it's not a special occasion and it's more than 5 minutes, we're probably trying to explain too much. And, the question is, how little is too little? Like, time frame wise, I think it can be done in 2 minutes. And what goes into the whiteboard brief is, hey, we need to say exactly what the workout is, cover it from start to finish. We need to talk about the stimulus. We need to talk how we get to the stimulus, because that sets context for scaling options. And we can discuss a couple of scaling options based on what movements are in the workout. And then, ask for injuries, and then talk about what needs to be done next. Right. And so in my mind, and I'm sure it's similar at your guys' gym, half the people are barely paying attention. And I know I'm going to have to repeat what the workout is and some of these other things. And so I don't think there's a ton of value in really getting into the weeds and the details, because no one's going to remember it in 30 minutes by the time 3, 2, 1 goes ready to happen anyways. And I'm going to have to bring them back up and rebrief it and talk through it at least one more time, if not twice. So I don't know. Too little is too little. Of not giving anything at all would be too little. But if you cover the workout, the stimulus, and how we get to that stimulus, which paints context for scaling options, I think that's plenty. That's plenty.
I also find it to be too little because this it should set the tone of the class, right? Like, we should be making connections with people. And so often, like, I would argue it's too little if you just get up there and you haven't said hi to anyone, you haven't greeted anybody, and you just immediately start and said, all right, here's the workout. And then I just roll through and essentially read what's on the board, and then say, all right, so go ahead, grab a bike. You're going to bike for 2 minutes, and that's it. It's like a minute and a half of essentially just like reading what's on the board and then sending people. There's no personal interaction or feeling to it. I think that's too little. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I can remember some early day affiliates before there was as much structure and information and experience doing this type of stuff, where it was literally like, here's the workout, here's your warm up. I'm going to be starting the clock in, 12 minutes. Be ready. And then it's like, go on your way and do your own thing. You do, you kind of follow the warm up yourself. You load up the barbell yourself. You decide how many reps you're doing. And when the clock starts, you better be ready to rock and roll. So if you need your bathroom break or whatever else it is, be ready to rock and roll. And that was an interesting time. It was a fun time. I enjoyed doing that, but like nowadays, it just would not fly. I don't feel.
When I first started, we had almost like a rolling start always. It was just like you just came in and you just kind of found the other people who kind of came in at the same time as you, and there were people that were doing the workout, and it's just like this. There were coaches, but yeah, there wasn't this set like, we're going to start and here's what the workout is and here's how we're going to do everything. It was just this like rolling start into everything, and it was chaotic and crazy, and we had like 7 times as many people as we probably should have fit in the space, and it was fun. But like you said, we can't do it like that anymore. It's not the way to roll.
Why not? I'm like, I don't know, you guys. Yeah, no, not that for sure. But I am definitely, I've talked to Todd about this before. I just think we overdo it. I think that the pendulum has swung from like, let's not really do anything and just kind of see what happens, to like the micromanaging of like systems and protocols and templates and things. And it's basically like you're just trying to communicate what the workout is so they know what the flow is. You're setting an expectation. You're making it accessible with, hey, loads go down, reps go down. Maybe we modify the movement a little. Don't worry, we got you in the warm up. And then direction. Here's what you need to know right now to do the next thing. And I'm like, I say this because I am guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. I've been like, there has to be a formula and this is the way and anything else is death to you all. And now I'm just like, just say the workout, man. Like, give them some options. Like,
well, Denise, I'm laughing because 5 minutes ago you said, all right, so for a whiteboard brief, I have 5 S's that have to be covered.
I do.
What are
those
S's?
What it is.
Yeah, tell me those S's.
What the S's are.
Tell
us your system, your process.
Yeah, you start, you set, you share, you show, and then you stage. And that's basically what I just said. It's you're starting something special, you're setting expectations, you're sharing the good stuff that they need to know, you're showing them how it's accessible to them, and then you're staging the next thing. Like, and that's just a way. If I was going to help somebody, if they were like, hey, how do you do a good whiteboard brief? I'm like, instead of just saying, just tell the workout and blah, 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 it helps people to kind of grab onto something. That's why I have these things. But it's got to the point where, like the tell, show, do, check. Like trainers are getting stressed out because they're like, oh my God, I showed before I told. I did it wrong. And I'm like, man, it's fine. Like it doesn't, you don't even have to show everything all the time. If people are not doing what you want, you probably should next time show because they're not clear. But if everyone's doing what you want because you told them and it was super clear, then I just think like the templating is good for someone to just kind of have some kind of roadmap. But this whole perfect whiteboard brief, I don't think exists like at all,
Well, I think it's a journey though. You describing that takes me back to the Jocko phrase, right? Discipline equals freedom. If you just let a brand new coach and you were like, hey, kind of do it however you want to, you don't really need to tell and show and check and teach. And yeah, those are the points of performance, but you don't really need to cover all of those. Well, you're never going to get to a point to where you're going to be very effective. Now, in your journey and where you're at, you've gone through and you've been so structured that you know what works, what really matters, and what doesn't. And you've got the ability to add or take away as needed. I just don't know that without this structure and being very deliberate, if somebody can skip that part and go from not knowing anything and not having much experience coaching to being able to free form and know when it's appropriate to do X, Y, and Z and when it's not. You know what I mean? So I completely agree with where you're at now. And I completely agree on all of those concepts. But I also think that there probably needs to be the structure in order to get to that point.
There does, and I agree. However, just another way of thinking about it is, what's wrong with go do it? Go, like, just don't tell any, like, you got a coach. I'm just, think about this thought experiment, because I'll tell you right now, there was no structure when I started coaching CrossFit. It was literally go figure it out. And I'm not saying that that's the best way, but it depends on how you want somebody to grow. So if somebody wants to organically grow and really learn and connect and things like that, you becoming efficient and a master will take longer this route, no doubt. But will the connection and meaningfulness be there a little more? So as an example, Kabo's never coached before. She's like, hey, I want to coach a class. Or she's never given a whiteboard brief before. But she's been an athlete. So she's stood there at the whiteboard. She's heard the coach say things. So she does have exposure to it. And she's like, how should I do the whiteboard brief? I'm like, I don't know, go try it. What is she going to do? She's going to stand up there and she's going to tell them the workout. And then she's going to say, hey, I think that maybe we should, think about scaling some things. This is what I want you to do next. Go grab a barbell. And that would be her first whiteboard brief, let's just say. Like, at minimum, she's going to read the workout. Maybe it doesn't come out great.
Hopefully. It depends on what your example is. You're giving the example of having a good example to follow, because I've seen the opposite of like, hey, this is how we do it at our gym, and we don't even really go over the workout.
Well, now you're talking about feedback. You're talking about the person watching the person. I'm just saying, I wasn't getting feedback back in the day. I would just do the class, and then I'd be like, I'd have to think, well, how should I do that a little bit better next time? So I think, obviously, I think having a system and a structure is going to be the best way. Clearly, it's like, hey, do these things. But I'm just saying, there is an argument for like, hey, go do it and see what it's like. And if you've got the mentor, you've got the Kabo, whoever it is, who's like, hey, here's what you did. What would you do differently in this part? And then they're like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, why don't in your next class think about it, come back to me, tell me what you're going to do differently. And then they go do it and they try it. And then again, you're like, well, what would you do differently? And I think there's a lot of value in that, but that only works if you have somebody who understands that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's a lot of variables to this, but I am a huge fan of like, well, what would you do differently? Why didn't it work? Like, putting the questions back on them. But I mean, tell them the workout, tell them how, kind of a feel, give them some scaling options, show a couple of things, and then go grab your stuff is a really nice template. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Simple, as simple as we can keep it, the better. Now we've got a couple things that are here in the comments. I love Omar makes mention of the size of the writing on the whiteboard is a big deal. And that's one, like, don't take for granted on the clarity at which you write. If we can't read your writing, that's going to be tough. If it's so small that everybody has to walk over to the whiteboard to see it, that's going to be tough. So a little thing, but it can be a big thing. Here's another good question from Omar is, what strategies do y'all use to help engage athletes who may not be paying attention during the whiteboard brief? And it's like, we've got a 15-minute buffer in between our classes because I want that. Well, one, I want to break for our coaches, but two, I want that overlap and community building between my athletes, either from one class to the next, or my new athletes that are going to be in the same class. I want them to be able to connect and I want them to chat. And so oftentimes when class starts, they're having an in-depth conversation, but I want to get this thing going. I'd be curious to know, what is your guys' approach to trying to get their attention and get the class started when you've got a group of people chatting? Kabo?
The vibe of my whiteboard brief is I try to engage people. Like, I pull them in, I ask them questions. It's a little bit of back and forth. And I think when that's kind of the feel of the brief, it allows people to pay attention a little bit more because it's more conversational than if I'm just standing up there and just, like I said, kind of reading everything. for 3 minutes, and there's no interaction with people at all. So I just try to keep it a little interactive and conversational, and that just gets ahead of the challenge of people just disengaging. What about you, Denise?
Yeah, I think I'm same as you, Kabo. I love the chitter in the morning at the whiteboard, whatever it is, as much as they do. And I want to talk to them. So let's say Todd and Kabo are like chatting and whatever. I'm just gonna insert myself into your conversation. Like,
oh, me too.
Oh yeah, guys. So and then what happened? Oh, that's cool. All right, here's what we've got. And then I'll just kind of hijack it a little bit. But after, first of all, not in a rude way, but after we've kind of had this back and forth and maybe some other people have joined in, but then just upping the volume a little bit when you're like starting to brief it is a good way to kind of set the tone. But I'll just join in half the time.
I do very similarly. And then it's like that, like, all right, so bring it in a little closer, guys. Yeah, and so it's just that very clear, like, we're about to start now, bring it in. And I like this, Coach Dr. Evil, eye contact and commanding voice for sure.
The other thing, like if people are being really unruly and I want to get started, I'm not going to yell over somebody though. And like, it's amazing how loud silence can be. To where when you do that, all right, guys, bring it in. It's 4:15. Come on down. And then there's this other group that like just won't pay attention and are doing their thing. Then I'll just stop and hang tight, and they'll either get the elbow from the person who wants class to start to be like, hey, shut up and pay attention, or they'll just realize that all of a sudden it's quiet and there should be somebody talking right now. What's going on? And then they look, and then that gets them going too. I know in my early days, I used to just try to get louder and louder, and when they're talking, they're getting louder, and it just turns into the screaming match, and nobody's accomplishing anything. Especially
and that's like a great group management strategy too, right? Like if you're going from the barbells, and now you're bringing everybody over to the pull-up bar, and you're trying to get that next piece started, and you've got half the group just chatting with each other. I'll just wait. I'll wait till everybody realizes what's happening, and I think that's a good strategy for sure.
What's also fun though is not fun but necessary at times is just like from the get-go is, all right, you guys have been in here for 5 minutes before you came to the whiteboard. You're done talking. You are not letting, just have fun with it and be like,
I think you have to have it. You've got to be a certain person to be able to.
I was going to say, DT has the ability to tell somebody to go F themselves and they laugh and enjoy it. Whereas when I do it, it doesn't go over quite as well, I don't think.
Just say zippy long stocking, like Denise. And I think that'll work for you. Yeah.
Know your audience. But Todd, last thing though, I think it really is important to acknowledge that they're adults, and I think sometimes coaches can take things personal. I read something recently where you have to always be one step removed from your profession, and that doesn't mean you're not wholeheartedly all in. You give everything you've got, but you are not your profession, and we tend to sometimes take things personally and internalize that they're being disrespectful when they're just adults, and they want to come and chat to their buddies, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's their time. Yeah, exactly. It's their time. They don't have to be in charge of anything. They don't have to. Yeah, they don't have their boss breathing down their neck. They're not worrying about their kids eating their dinner. Exactly. Yeah, it's just like I want to turn my brain off, hang out with my friends, and get a workout in.
I would say it's never about you as the coach. And I remember how offended I used to be when people wouldn't pay attention at whiteboard briefs or wouldn't want to listen to me in scaling options. And it was always like, they don't think I know what I'm talking about. They don't respect me. In reality, they're just not paying attention.
Remember our nightmares, guys? We have nightmares that we're like briefing classes and doing things and nobody's listening.
Reoccurring. This is a true story. Reoccurring dreams. We had a conversation once. What reoccurring coaching dreams do you have? And that is one of them. Why
won't you listen to me? I'm the coach.
I know my stuff. What is the Saturday Night Live skit with Will Ferrell? I'm a district manager. I drive a Ford Taurus. Let's see. I think Ryan makes
a good question.
Well, Ryan makes a
go
good
ahead. Yeah,
point.
that
I'll say
was
this
great.
real
And
quick
then,
of like, hey, being a couple minutes over is not that really a big deal. If that's creating community and people are having a good time, it sets the tone for what we want to do anyways. And so I love that.
Is that level 4 speaking right there?
That
is
it's a
level 4
doctor of
speaking.
CrossFit. Doctor of CrossFit.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Yes.
Level
Put
4.
in the work.
Now you can drink with your pinky up.
Yeah, I love this question. What about repeating everything to people who are always late and then don't listen when you rebrief before the workout starts? What do you do for that, Denise?
I just let them do it wrong.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. No, well, sometimes I do. I'm like, it's fine. Repeating everything to people who are always late. No, I don't repeat everything. If they come in late, I'll be like, thank them for showing up, first of all. And then I'll say, hey, don't worry, I got you. I'll catch you up on anything that you missed. And if they're not listening when I rebrief, I'll probably, again, got to know who you are and where you are. Normally, some people I'll be like, yo, Cabo, you're coming late and now you're chatting. Zip it. Like, there'll be something like that. Or
just like Steffi says right there, it's the accent. She can do that. Nobody else, like in a different way than most of the rest of us can. Yeah,
I don't get away with it.
Right. Maybe we go over to England and we try it, and then they're like, "Oh, those Americans are so cute" when they get angry.
Or and then if they continue to just talk and disrupt, which to be honest, we don't really have that. But if that did happen, I would probably just go over to them and ask them if they heard what I was saying. If it's disrupting the class, I will address it after and have a conversation. But if it's not, and let's say it was Cabo and she's been coming a long time, she's kind of having a little chitter to the side, and I know Cabo knows what she's doing, but I'll probably just still go over and check in. But if it's disruptive, it's different.
And I think that falls in line with this question too. How do you all adjust on the fly if an athlete seem confused after your whiteboard brief and staying in your timeline? Does it mean the workout is confusing, or my whiteboard brief wasn't effective, or maybe somebody wasn't paying attention? Like, all of those things can be true. And so to this question, and also to Amit's question around people not paying attention, like at the initial whiteboard brief, to me, it doesn't really matter because I know I'm going to cover it again. At the rebrief, this is when I'm like, hey guys, I need you to come here. I need you paying attention because we want to talk about this. And if it's one of those confusing workouts that is not just, hey, 5 rounds for time, or for 20 minutes, you're going to be doing this, I will walk them, like I'll rebrief it. And then I'll give them the example of, all right, so at 3, 2, 1, go, you're going to start doing this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and whatever that is. And sometimes I'll even have them walk through the steps to the movements to ensure that everybody's on the same page. If there's a chance that it is one of those workouts that's a little like different than what we typically do. And that for me seems to work. Now, do people still mess it up? Absolutely. And you check in the workout and somebody's doing something different than everybody else. And I'm like, are you done already? And they're like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, you did 3 rounds and then rotated this? And they're like, you're supposed to do 3 rounds. I'm like, yeah. Oh, and then you're like, yeah, just do 2 more or whatever. Like, does it really matter? Not really. Did they sweat? Did they
My
have a
mom
good
does
workout?
that all the time, but she does too many. Like, we'll be like, why is she still going? We'll be like, Mom, what round are you on? She's like, I think 4. And I'm like, it's only 3. But yeah, so I think you can be as clear as you can be, but not everybody's going to follow along exactly. The other thing I just want to say with Omar's question, sometimes when there is a more confusing workout, or if people aren't 100% tracking, you can let that whiteboard brief get a bit derailed if you stay up there and you're determined to make sure that every single person understands every single step, and people are asking questions. And you guys know how it is. A lot of times you have half the group that feels pretty good about it, and then the questions start, and now all of a sudden everybody hears questions, and now they're like, wait a minute, I thought. So oftentimes if that starts to happen, I just kind of nip it in the bud, and it's just like, all right, guys, we're going to cover all of this once we get on the floor. I promise you, I'm going to walk you through it. Everything's going to be good. And just having that that command and that confidence that it's like, just stick with me. I've got you.
I got you.
Here's what I need you guys to do next, and we'll go from there. So if that starts to happen, Omar, then usually I'll just nip it in the bud and be like, let's move on.
And she'll use that
also,
serious, that parent voice to make that happen.
I'll be like, zip it.
I don't know what Teffy would say, but I'm sure it's way more exotic and sexy than what I would say. But I think that's why too, and it goes back to this whiteboard brief being a small piece, but something that can really bite you in the butt if you don't get it right, is the more confusing the workout, the more you better practice saying it to your class so it makes sense. Like literally, I will practice what I want to say when I'm driving to my classes, because I will create way more confusion if I don't understand the workout and the flow. And then the other thing too, which is a lot of questions in the whiteboard brief, we've not talked about this yet, but logistics. There's always questions about like what is how do you score the workout? I don't know, different gyms have different ways of doing it, but how do they input it into the sugar word and things? So just always saying at the end, like, this is how it's scored, it will literally cancel out all those questions. The other thing is logistics. Members freak out when they realize there's a lot of equipment and not a lot of space and a lot of people. And they try to help by moving things. So at the whiteboard, I say, guys, I'm a trained professional. I was up all night figuring out how you can move safely, efficiently, and effectively through this workout, where the traffic patterns are good for me to teach, see, and correct. When you move things, it's a giant pain in my ass. So leave the equipment where it is. I got you. Okay, do you trust me? And so there's days where there'll be a box and a rower and like a barbell, and they're trying to navigate, and I'm like, I got you, trust me. And so the directions or the next steps of your whiteboard brief like are so important, or just having them understand that it's all going to be okay. And I know you're trying to help, but like, what would Boz say? Sometimes being the most helpful is by doing nothing at all.
Right. And what is the saying that he uses at the games of like being over, that the essence of, he's got a certain phrase for it. Cable, I don't know if you remember it, but it's what DT just said. It's like, sometimes thinking you're helping is making things worse. So only do what we've asked you to do. But you make mention of practicing the whiteboard brief and saying the workout to try to provide some clarity in this. I think that's such a big piece. And I've got a special workout that I'd be curious if either one of you would like to give a go at, like a little mock whiteboard brief based on this workout.
With no preparation.
No prep. You didn't get a chance to read it over and say it in your head in the car. So a CrossFit.com workout. There's a few variants of this style workout that we've used at my affiliate a lot, but either one of you guys want to either give this a go on a mock whiteboard brief, or just discuss how, like, what would be the things that you would want to point out to make this not confusing for your members?
Denise, give it a go.
I would be like, all right, guys, today.
You all know everyone wants to hear Denise do it.
Exactly. Nobody's here to,
Hey, zip it. Pay attention. You had your time.
See what we're doing here? Yep.
Come a little closer. You're not close enough if I can't feel your breath on my cheek. Okay. All right. Today's workout, it's 4 reps. So all you're going to do is add up all the reps that you accumulate. You're going to do 1 minute of double unders, 1 minute of alternating single leg squats, 1 minute of hang, clean, and jerks. And then we're going to repeat those 3 movements. But this time you're doing 2 minutes of double unders, 2 minutes of alternating single leg squats, 2 minutes of hang, clean, jerks. Then we're going to do those 3 movements again. And this time we're going to do 3 minutes of double unders, 3 minutes of alternating single leg squats, and 3 minutes of hang, clean, and jerks. The loading on the barbell is going to be 95 pounds for the gents, 95 pounds for the ladies, 135 pounds for the gents. And we're going to figure out when we get into this what your double unders are going to look like. A lot of it's going to probably look like practice if we don't have them. And if we're on the cusp, every attempt counts. Just count them along. And if you have them, great. Gosh, Austin, bad timing. If you're alternating single leg squats,
came late to class. We have to figure out how to.
Come on,
classic. For your single leg squats, quality is premium here. We want to see if you can do these well. And if not, we probably will modify the movement to something like sit into a box or maybe doing some kind of deficit reverse lunge. And your hand clean and jerks, we'd like you to be able to get like a good set of 10, 5 to 10, where you're picking it up and got like resting for maybe like 5-10 seconds in between. But don't worry about that. We're going to warm up and get you going. If you guys have injuries, any limitations that are preventing you from doing this because you have pain, come see me. As now you go grab your jump rope. You're going to line up right here. I want you in the middle of the columns where your jump rope is. I'd like you also to put your barbell there. You have 45 seconds to go grab all those things and come see me if you need me to help you in any way, shape, or form. The clock is on. Go.
And she drops the mic. Boom. DT
like
on the fly. Well done.
And
How
that
awesome
is why
that?
she is the Denise Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. Very
Lowercase.
nicely
Lowercase.
Yeah, love it. And like, how cool was that? So first things first, said the workout in the simplest form and fashion possible. And I love the way you covered that, because this is a complex workout, right? There's a lot going on. The time changes each time, but you covered what it was and then said, hey, we're going to repeat that cycle, but this time for 2 minutes, repeat that cycle, saying it again, and then do it for 3 minutes. Awesome. Very, very clear. Talked about scoring in there. It's just total reps. So just count everything up. And then went through each movement, talking about stimulus, what we want to see, and then also what your options are going to be if not. Talked about injuries and gave exact instructions for what was needed, what they needed to know to do the next part, which is going to be the general warm-up. Like that's great. I think that's such a good example of how simple yet concise this can be and should be. Whereas where I see this thing go wrong a lot of times is somebody will be like, all right, so for your workout's 4 reps, it starts with 1 minute of double unders. All right. So what I'm looking for there is probably somewhere around 50 double unders. If you don't have double unders, we're going to start doing penguin hops, or maybe we'll do single unders, and then maybe we'll do attempts and potentially like plate jumps. And so just know that we'll work on double unders and that'll be it. And then the next thing we're going to do is single leg squats. And so if you don't have those, we might do step ups or squat to a box. And they start going off on these tangents before saying the entire workout itself. And then all of a sudden, if I'm listening and I start following one of those tangents and then my brain checks off before you moved on, that's where people get confused. And so staying disciplined enough to talk through the entire workout first before going down the rabbit holes of scaling options or stimulus or other things like that, I think is so important. And this is one of those workouts where it'd be very, very easy to go that other route and fall into the trap of just trying to explain too much of this stuff before we just simply say the workout. So really nicely done.
I think that's a good example of something that sounds pretty simple when you're describing out loud, but like you said, it can be really, really easy to find yourself down that rabbit hole. So even though it might sound pretty straightforward and simple, like just say the whole workout first and then loop back and start going into a little bit more detail. If it's not on our mind to do it that way, it's so easy to let yourself go down that rabbit hole. I mean, I know I've fallen into that trap many, many times. So just simply having the awareness of like, okay, here's the structure, here's the template. Like Denise said, practicing it, do a little out loud run through once or twice, I think can be a really, really good way to make sure that you present this as clearly as possible. Yeah, I love this. Oh my God, this workout is going to destroy you. The 5 a.m. class is just like, they had to lay on the ground rolling around for 10 minutes afterwards. It sucked so bad.
I agree that I don't want to start in add anxiety, but I also will provide some context. I'm not afraid of doing that, but I try to probably do my best DT impression and making it fun and kind of sarcastic. And so, you guys know the deal. Any workout that has built-in rest that ends up being intervals, I'll make a point to say that. Usually those things are devastating. It's going to be really, really hard. And it'll be like, all right, guys, so you guys see it's, something like the Chief. It's 5 rounds of 3 minutes of 3 power cleans, 6 push-ups, 9 air squats. You're going to do as many as you can for 3 minutes. Then you're going to rest 1 minute. And I'll get through the brief and they'll be like, So as you know, it's got rest in it. So it's going to be probably pretty easy today, right? And the people that have been there for a while know that when there's rest included, it's not going to be very easy, and other people are unsure. But I agree that you probably don't want to say that this workout's going to destroy you and you're going to die. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, do I really want to do this thing?
Yeah. I will say a huge pitfall though, Todd, real quick. I think this covers a lot is minimize your assumptions about what people know and what they don't know. And that's for everything. I can't tell how many times I've heard people say, well, they come all the time. They kind of know how to squat. I'm like, yeah, but your job is to make
100%.
Your job is to make them better at that. So with the whiteboard brief, this really like grinds my gears. I hear people saying, you don't need to read the workout. It's on the board. And I'm like, I just do not agree with that at all. I do not. And I'm like, yes, they can read. They're not idiots. Like, but your job is to read it again for them because they may have read it wrongly. They may, you don't know. So, oh, what about, all our members, they hate when blah, blah, blah. I'm like, again, it's not up to the members what you do. You're the professional. You go there and you have a system. Yay, systems. You read the thing. And now you're just making sure that you're both on the same page. So like, stop with the assumptions because you don't know what they did last night, this morning. Their head might be like mashed potato and, just say it. And zip
say
it.
the whole thing. I love that saying of like, my members don't like it when, or my members want this. It's like your members want what you've taught them to want or to like. So most of that stuff is on us and the culture that we've set, or the tone that we've set. Now I've got a couple questions for you guys. So whiteboard brief, does it absolutely have to start the class, or can it be done after a general warm up? I've seen it both ways. DT, what's your thoughts?
I think it depends on your culture, and it's like, I heard something the other day by head coach and Super Bowl 59 winner Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles said, the game dictates how the game is played, right? The game dictates how the game is played. So you go in and you're like, I'm going to do my whiteboard brief in the beginning, but a bunch of members come in and they're like, there's an accident on Route 5. All right, guys, let's start warming up. And when everybody gets here, in about 5-6 minutes, we'll do it. So I've done it both ways. I've done it as a rule, I like to do it in the beginning. I'm not going to say that I bounce around. I am at 0. We're going to bring everyone in. We're going to share some things and do something special. But I'm also sometimes, it depends on the workout. It depends on how many people are there. And there's times where I'll just get them rock and rolling and then I'll bring them over to the whiteboard. Or let's say they're all on the bikes. I'll just brief the whiteboard at the bikes. Hey guys, here's what I got today. Stop biking a second. Blah, 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 blah. Are we clear? Good. All right, go grab your stuff, and maybe not even bring them back to the whiteboard. Rarely, but I've done that. There's nothing that says that you have to be standing at a whiteboard to brief a class, but generally for me, I like to start at the whiteboard. I like to end at the whiteboard, but the game dictates how the game is played. If things change, I will flex. I'll flex, another Bosmanism.
There it is, right?
Flex.
And I think some of the takeaways from the things you just said, Denise, are regardless of how it needs to happen for that particular class, you're not ditching the explanation completely. You're still finding a way to tell them what the workout is, tell them what to expect, tell them what the next steps are. So it might not look the same every single time, but it's still happening in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And sometimes not. Sometimes I'm like, figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Old
no.
school, Wild West. Like,
look at the workout. We're going to start the clock in 20
doing.
minutes. You guys can read. Here we go.
3 minutes. Put weight on your bar.
Y'all have done Amanda before. Just
come on.
Go ahead.
Just
you guys have been here for a while. You know how to snatch.
Jump and land.
Yeah, let's go. All right, here's the next question for you. Demonstrating movements at the whiteboard.
Great question.
Go or
if
no?
you don't demonstrate an ab mat sit up every time, you're
following the tell, show, do, check process.
Following the tell, show, do, check.
All right, so guys, we're gonna do ab mat sit-ups today. This is what it looks like. So here's what I want.
And show 10 reps. 10 reps.
You're going to sit your butt in front of the fat
from two
side.
different angles.
20 reps.
Front angle is the best. Anyways, at the whiteboard, do we show movements? Do you do that? What's your thoughts?
I'll go. I do not.
Sorry.
I do not. Yeah. Sometimes I'll like mime it a little bit, but or I'll explain what it is if I feel like that needs to happen. But I don't bring I don't make sure that I have a kettlebell or a dumbbell in my barbell or like run over to the pull-up bar and show a toes to bar mid brief. I don't do that.
DT, do you do it?
Currently, at this point in my life, it depends. It always depends for me. It depends on who's in the class. Are there more people in the class that don't know what one of these movements might be or not? Is there a couple? Usually, if there's somebody in there that's brand new, I will demonstrate the movement that I know they've never seen before. Like they may have never seen a thruster. I'll quickly just show it. They may not know what a snatch is. If it's from the hang, I'll explain maybe like, hey, pick it up. And then it really depends, but I don't do everything all the time. It really does depend on who's in front of me, what the workout is. But back to learning and developing a consistency in how I teach, I did used to do that. I would bring everything up to the whiteboard, almost everything. I remember times distinctly at Reebok where I would have a box and a barbell by the whiteboard. I would show it because I also believe that we don't talk about range of motion enough at the whiteboard, where we're showing them these are the range of motion pieces, whether it's before the skill work or at the whiteboard. So I would show them because it really mattered. You got to stand all the way up. When you do your burpee, your chest and thighs hit, and when your arms are over your head, they're straight and they're right over the middle of your foot. And then I would run over to the pull-up bar, which was probably like 20 feet away, and I'd be like, this is what a pull-up looks like. So I've done it all. But so it depends at the whiteboard, but always when we're coaching, teaching, I pretty much demonstrate everything before I ask them to do it. Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
What do you do, Todd?
For the workout itself, I don't demonstrate. And I don't know that I've ever demonstrated at the whiteboard because I'm going to teach all of those movements. So if you don't know what a thruster is or what a hang snatch is, I got you. That's what we're going to spend the majority of class doing, which is teaching those movements. Now, oftentimes I'll have a warm up that's like, hey guys, you're going to do 2 rounds of, a 200-meter run, a, side lunge or Cossack squat, a kip swing, and a down dog push-up or something like that. And I will show those things that they're going to need for the warm-up that I'm going to let them do kind of at free form. So I'll cover those movements, but not the movements in the workout, because like I said, I know I'm going to be teaching those in the actual specific warm-up itself. And so if they don't know what they are off the top of their head, I got them. No problem. So that's where my head's at with that. Once again, I've seen it done multiple ways, and I think it can be done multiple ways. I just always revert back to the idea that less is more at the whiteboard, and I'm going to have to cover all of this stuff again at least once more, if not more than that. So no need in just burying them with information and taking a bunch of time to do that. Let's see. Ryan's got new S for whiteboard. Set the standard early. Range of motion, appropriate scaling choice, stimulus. Let's just get your S's up to like 8 or 10. I think if the whiteboard brief had 10 S's, that's where we'd want to be.
A little bit easier to remember.
Here, I'll show you. Can I present? Can I share my screen?
So. Can you?
Oh, I can.
What do you got? Can you?
I don't know if you can.
Kristin, can you help get her that? Otherwise, do you have something you can share? Can email or text to us real quick?
No, I can share it, I think.
All right, I'm going to pull mine out. Let's pull. I stopped my screen sharing.
Here's a great question while you guys are doing that. Let's cover this real quick from Vicente, because this is also something I see done both ways. So if you have a strength and Metcon day or a part A or part B, do you do one brief for each or cover them both at the start?
I will I try to set the tone for the entire day at once. And so based on what the priority is for that day, I'm going to say like, hey guys, here's your workout today. And so say it's part B, it's the Metcon. This is our focus today. Tell them what it is, what the stimulus is, how we're going to get there. And prior to that, we're going to do some lifts, for 10 minutes, we're going to be doing back squats. Cool. And then that's what I say at the brief, but then I'm going to rebrief it before they do each piece. So we do our warm up, our specific warm up. We get ready for the lifting session. All right, guys, remember, for 8 minutes, every minute on the minute, you're going to be doing 3 reps of this front squat. Cool. Then we transition and whatever needs to be done before we start part B. All right, guys, remember this is 4 rounds for time, X, Y, and Z, and cover it that way. How do you do it, K-Bo?
But do you bring everybody back to the whiteboard for like a secondary whiteboard brief, or do you just revisit what you've already?
It depends on if it's complex and I need them to be able to see it.
Like
if
the
it's
visual
not too,
aid?
Yeah, the visual aid. If it's not too complex and it's like, hey, we just did back squats and now we're doing Helen, I don't need to bring them back. I'll just stand like once I've got everybody stationed where they want before we get ready for the clock. Remember, guys, it's 3 rounds, 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, and 12 pull-ups. All right, you guys ready to rock? Sweet. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, and that's where the little test round or like the walkthrough can come into, can be an advantage too, because it makes sure that everybody's clear. I do it all at the beginning. And similarly, if I feel like it needs to be redone, or I need to remind everybody in a little bit more of a specific way, or I'm seeing people are just a little confused, then it's like, all right, let's come back over so I can use the board. But I try to cover everything pretty clearly from the start so that everyone just has a nice overview of the things that are going to be going down.
Yeah. DT, how we doing over there?
Can't do it.
Can you send it to me? Can you share it with me via email or something, and then I'll pull it up? Or is it top secret?
Okay. It's not important. I was just going to show Ryan no, it's not top secret. I just am technological. I have to open system preferences and it's a slide and it's fine. You don't know. It's not that. But for this, I will bring them back to the whiteboard. It depends on, is it like a movement that is going to be seen in the Metcon? In which case, I will brief it as the strength is it's just part of the warm up. It's like we're getting ready for the workout. So I think it's hard for me to answer this because we don't do this kind of programming. And when we do lift and then do a workout, it's generally because the lift is going to be in the workout. But if this was the case, let's say we were doing a snatch and then the Metcon did not have a snatch in, but it had other things, I would brief them literally as 2 separate workouts. And I would say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to snatch whatever the things are in there. And then you see this other piece right here. This is going to be what we'll do after. Don't worry about that right now. We're going to come back and I'm going to give you the details on that. And I would completely separate them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing too is that the challenge with a lot of the part A and part B, like the multi-part workouts that people are doing every day on a daily basis, is fitting everything in and using your time as effectively as possible. So if you're going to do like a 5-minute whiteboard brief and then you're going to do an additional whiteboard brief, that's just too much. So I think if you're going to separate them, you just need to have the plan and know you're going to separate them, and each one just is a little bit more concise, right? Because again, if we're struggling to fit all the things that we want to fit within that hour, then we just have to be super mindful about how we're spending our time. So I don't want to spend more time than is needed on whiteboard briefing when that's time I need to be coaching. Right?
See and correct. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
It wouldn't be for me that it's not a 5-minute whiteboard brief on the snatch and then a 5-minute whiteboard brief on the Metcon. It's guys, we're snatching. This is the rep scheme. This is how you're going to score. Go grab a barbell. You have it would be that quick. And then I would just go into it. And then I'd say, hey, come on in. Let's just read through this thing. Here's what I want you to do in warm up. 3 rounds. Bop, 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 bop. You got this amount of time. Now, we could do a whole nother podcast on this, because if this Metcon is 20 minutes and this snatch work is like 15-minute AMRAP, then we're in a hole and we have 20 people in class. Like that, in my opinion, is really terrible programming, because you're not considering all the other things that go into running a good class. So, but that's for another time.
Yeah, we actually discussed that 2 weeks ago, I think. But I like that too, like separating it into two completely separate, especially depending on the complexity and if they're not related. There's no what would you say, synergy between the lift and the Metcon.
Yeah.
Yin and yang.
You know that people are going to get caught up and their brain's going to get fixed on one or the other, right? And so somebody, even though you're going to snatch first, could get so caught up in the Metcon that their brain can only concentrate on that and they don't pay attention to the first half. And so you avoid that happening by completely separating the two, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty cool.
Literally doesn't matter.
No.
Because right now you're about to do the world's hardest lift. And I don't want your brain anywhere else. You know, obviously if it's a back squat, I still believe it. Like I want your brain in the back squat. I don't want your brain in this 400-meter run and, whatever else. Like leave it. Doesn't matter. We might not even do it. Hey, we might not even get there, guys.
You know what? If everyone's looking good and strong on their back,
suggestive.
We're going to spend more time on that. Yeah.
I think that makes a good point of like, hey, if there are two pieces to your workout, what's the priority? Either what are you presented with? What are you given as, hey, this is the focus for the day? Or for you as a coach, will you determine what the focus is? And if that's the case, then it's like, hey guys, and that's, I brief everything together, but it's always like, hey, here's the workout today. It's the snatch. Now, when we're done, we're going to do this quick, 400-meter runs and toes to bar and whatever. But this is what we're going to do with the snatch, and let's get going on that thing. So I just think that's such a good point of that needs to be, the priority needs to be identified, and that's what needs to be emphasized to everybody else.
Yeah, I've asked also the programmer at our gym before. I'm like, what is your focus here? Why? Like, I am like the worst part-time coach you could probably hire. I ask so many questions. I'm just like, what was your reason for this? Why are we doing it? Which one is the one that you want to? Is it a heavy day or is it a Metcon day? Like, I don't know, and I want to know what everyone else is going to be doing in class. Like, again, it comes down to that. Your team is everything. Like, you need synergy across all the classes, or else the people are just working in these silos. So yeah, I am a giant pain in the ass, honestly. But whatever.
No chance. Not with the accent. No such thing as pain in the ass. Exactly.
It's worth it.
Oh, both of them are the priority. Zip it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
They can't both
do
be
it
the priority.
Is it a lift day or is it a Metcon day? Yeah.
Oh, it's both?
Yeah.
No chance. It absolutely is not. All right. So with that, whiteboard briefs, what's the final take? Kristin, what would you say? Main takeaway,
don't
whiteboard
do
briefs.
them. It doesn't really matter. Was that what we decided at the very beginning?
Throw caution.
Doesn't really matter. Oh, here we go.
No, I think looping us back to the beginning, I think I agree with what we were talking about from the get-go. It's like these structures and strategies and templates and everything are just such a really great tool to learn and have some structure to give yourself feedback, get feedback, become more comfortable in everything that we're doing. And then you can have some freedom. You can have some freedom from there. So I like having a little bit of a template, a strategy, keeping it simple. And then the more experience you have, and the more comfortable with it you are, the more you can, get a little looser with things. And still get the main point across that you need to get across for your people.
DT, your thoughts? 17 S's? That's what we're going with?
We're at 17 now? 17 S's?
The 17 S's. Don't plan, just go. No, I'm with Kabo. I think find a template, any template, stick to it for a couple of weeks. Like, do not deviate. But after each one, make a mental note of why you did not like it, and then just find your own process. But things that need to happen is then you know what they're doing, then you know what it's supposed to, the goal is, then you know how they're going to get there. And then they need to know what the heck they're doing next. Like, and that's pretty much.
And that's in my mind, that's the template itself. And just be consistent in doing it roughly the same way every time. Now, the real question is.
Yes, Omar.
What kind of coffee or tea are you drinking before the whiteboard brief?
What do you mean?
Number one, tea.
Before?
We're not. Oh, yeah, during.
Hey guys.
Right?
During. Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't. I am a loyal subscriber to Ambassador Acuto's brand of perk. So I'm a perk drinker. 15% off if you follow Funky Fresh Coffee Club.
That's it. Let's see.
PERC. You guys
perk,
look
like
that up.
Perky with a C and not a Y.
Todd 15 is your code. That gets you 15% off. There we go. There it is.
Oh, Denise, thanks for joining us today.
I love you guys. I miss you so much. When Todd, I was in bed last night. I go to bed at like 8:30. I think it may have been like around 9. Todd's like, hey, Gaga. Anytime he opens up a text with Gaga, I'm in. That's the Eagles calling sign. Gaga. It's like, you want to join the podcast? And I'm like, heck yeah, always, you know. So thank you for having me. I love this.
Always a pleasure. Always so good to see you. Can't wait to talk coffee with you on our next coffee podcast. But if you guys have not listened to the CrossFit podcast yet, we've got the one and only DT as the host. Check it out. It is awesome. What's the frequency at which they are releasing those? I know there's been 2 out so far.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday is when they're coming out.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah, like we said at the beginning, Nicole Carroll and Chuck Carswell are the first 2. Like, could not be a more epic lineup.
Heavy hitters right there.
Yeah, to start the
thing. Can I just say too about this podcast is the podcast is to elevate people in our community that are doing good in the world, and that goes from affiliate owners to scientists to doctors to like coaches, the whole thing. Sometimes most of them are in the community, but some are outside of the community, but believe in what we're doing. And it really is just like a podcast of positivity. So I just want to say, like, if you're joining and you're wanting some like dirty controversy, you're not going to get that. Not with me. I mean, there will be times when topics might need to come up like that, but this is truly about the goodness of what we do. And there are so many podcasts out there
focused on enough.
But yes, and it's just fun. It's nice to just have a conversation with people that are just freaking awesome, and they want to share their gifts and their wisdom, and I get the opportunity to learn so much. So join it. And if you have anybody you think should be like a guest, let us know, because we love people that do good in the world.
That's it. There's no way that DT could lead something and be the facilitator of a conversation and it not be all completely positive. Even when she's telling you to zip it and to shut up, it's still so positive and so fun.
Okay, Nicole, zip it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, appreciate you. If you want more of this content, obviously the affiliate university, if you're an affiliate owner, or if you got a team of coaches that you want to get this kind of content, make sure you guys sign up. Also check out the knowledge if you are a coach and not an affiliate owner and you're looking for additional resources, videos, and the knowledge daily. And then also if you want a small group mastermind experience, then the Knowledge Pro is where to go. So as always, it's a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Appreciate y'all.
Gaga.